At 2,200 hours on August 6, 1944, General der Panzertruppe Hans Eberbach stood inside his command post near Mortain, France. Maps covered the tables. Radios crackled with reports. Outside, engines rumbled softly in the darkness. Eberbach was preparing to launch the largest German armored counterattack since D-Day. Eberbach commanded Panzer Group West, the collective force that controlled all German armored units in Normandy. For Operation Lüttich, four panzer divisions were placed under his direct authority. The 2nd SS Panzer Division Das Reich, the 1st SS Panzer Division, Leibstandard Adolf Hitler, the 2nd Panzer Division, and the 116th Panzer Division. Together, they fielded 185 operational tanks and nearly 32,000 soldiers. The objective was clear and brutally simple. Push 40 kilometers west. Break through the town of Mortain. Cut the narrow American corridor at Avranches. Trap General George Patton's 3rd Army south of the breakthrough. Restore the shattered German front in Normandy. On paper, it looked possible. Hans Eberbach was no amateur. He had commanded armored formations since 1940. Poland, France, Russia. He understood combined arms warfare. He understood logistics. He understood mobility. And more importantly, he understood air power. That was the problem. This attack was scheduled to begin in daylight. The order had come directly from Adolf Hitler himself. The Führer demanded immediate action. No delays. No waiting for nightfall. No consideration of Allied air superiority. The counterattack would begin at dawn on August 7, 1944. Eberbach protested. His intelligence officers delivered a grim forecast. The weather for August 7th would be clear skies from dawn until evening. Clear skies meant Allied fighter-bombers. Fighter-bombers meant disaster. Eberbach knew this. Every German commander in Normandy knew this. Hitler overruled him. The attack would go forward. At 0700 hours, as the 1st Panther tanks rolled west through Mortain's narrow streets, Eberbach stood watching the sky. It was perfectly clear. Not a single cloud stretched from horizon to horizon. He knew exactly what was coming. Initially, the German advance showed promise. By 0800 hours, the lead elements of the 2nd Panzer Division had pushed nearly 8 kilometers west of Mortain. American forces, primarily from the 30th Infantry Division, were caught off guard. Units fell back in confusion. The corridor toward Avranches seemed briefly vulnerable. For a moment, it appeared that Hitler's gamble might succeed. Then, at 0836 hours, everything changed. High above the battlefield, RAF Typhoon fighter bombers appeared. Squadron leader J.R. Baldwin, commanding number 245 Squadron RAF, spotted the German column from 3,000 meters altitude. Below him stretched a perfect target, 47 tanks and more than 120 support vehicles, packed tightly along a single road west of Mortain. Baldwin keyed his radio. Target is armor. Going in. The Hawker Typhoon was Britain's dedicated ground attack aircraft. Each carried 8 RP, 3 rockets, each rocket fitted with a 60-pound warhead. At impact speed, these rockets could punch through 5 inches of armor. German Panther tanks had thick frontal armor, but their sides and rear were vulnerable. Baldwin's squadron dove from altitude to just 600 meters. In 2 attack passes, they fired 64 rockets. The entire strike lasted 4 minutes. Pilots claimed 11 tanks destroyed and 23 vehicles burning. Later ground verification reduced the confirmed damage, but it hardly mattered. 6 tanks were hit. 18 trucks were destroyed. Near misses ripped tracks from tanks, shattered engines, and killed crews through concussion alone. But the real damage wasn't destruction. It was disruption. The German column halted instantly. Tanks scattered off the road, desperately seeking cover. Infantry fled into hedgerows. The advance froze for 37 critical minutes while units tried to regroup. At 0912 hours, Eberbach received the first report. 1 RAF squadron. For minutes of attack, the entire advance stopped. Eberbach checked the weather forecast again. Clear skies until 1900 hours. That meant 11 more hours of daylight. What Eberbach did not know, what he could not possibly know, was that Baldwin's brief attack had triggered something far larger. The RAF had been waiting for this exact moment. And now, the system was awake. What Hans Eberbach did not know at 0912 hours was that the RAF's response was already moving at industrial speed. Squadron Leader Baldwin's brief contact report, transmitted at 0838 hours, had activated a pre-planned system designed for exactly this scenario. The RAF 2nd Tactical Air Force, commanded by Air Marshal Arthur Cunningham, had been expecting a German counterattack at Mortain. Allied intelligence, specifically ultra-decrypts, had intercepted German communications 18 hours earlier. The warning was clear. German armor was assembling. A daylight attack was imminent. Cunningham had prepared accordingly. Typhoon squadrons stationed at forward airfields across Normandy were already fueled, armed, and briefed. Pilots had maps marked. Ground crews stood ready beside rocket racks and ammunition belts. The moment confirmation arrived, the response was automatic. By 0945 hours, less than 70 minutes after Baldwin's first strike, 83 Typhoons from 6 squadrons were airborne, converging on Mortain. This was not improvisation. It was a system. Each RAF Typhoon squadron consisted of 18 aircraft. Each aircraft carried 8 rockets and 420mm cannons loaded with 800 rounds of ammunition. A full squadron could launch, attack, return to base, rearm, refuel, and launch again in just 47 minutes. On August 7, 1944, the RAF 2nd Tactical Air Force had 27 operational Typhoon squadrons in Normandy. That meant 486 Typhoons available for ground attack. The mathematics were devastating. If each squadron flew only 3 sorties per day, a conservative estimate, the RAF could generate 1,458 individual aircraft sorties in a single day. That translated into 11,664 rockets fired. Against 185 German tanks, the ratio was 63 rockets per tank. At 1,015 hours, the second wave arrived. 12 squadrons, 216 Typhoons. They struck German positions across a 15-kilometer front west of Mortain. Eberbach's operations officer reported grimly, "All forward movement has ceased. Units are requesting permission to withdraw to covered positions." Eberbach denied the request. Hitler's orders were explicit. Advance regardless of casualties. Reach Avranches by nightfall. The tanks stayed on the roads. The Typhoons kept coming. Between 11:47 and 15:23 hours, a span of just 3 hours and 36 minutes, the RAF flew 294 Typhoon sorties over the Mortain battlefield. This was no longer air harassment. It was systematic destruction, coordinated in real time with American ground forces. Forward air controllers embedded with U.S. units directed the attacks with precision. One of them was Captain James Crawford of the 30th Infantry Division. Crawford was positioned on Hill 314, overlooking Mortain from 200 meters above the valley floor. From this vantage point, he could see German tank formations clearly. Every movement, every attempt to regroup, every effort to advance. Every 8 to 12 minutes, Crawford radioed updated coordinates to RAF control. The Typhoons adjusted their attack runs accordingly. German tanks could not hide. At 1,147 hours, 18 Typhoons attacked a column from the 2nd SS Panzer Division. 144 rockets were fired. Pilots claimed 9 tanks destroyed. At 1,223 hours, 24 Typhoons struck the 1st SS Panzer Division's assembly area. 192 rockets, plus 14 tons of bombs, rained down. Pilots claimed 12 tanks destroyed. At 1,308 hours, 30 Typhoons attacked the 2nd Panzer Division near St. Barthélemy. 240 rockets fired. 15 tanks claimed destroyed. The pattern repeated relentlessly. Typhoons attacked. Returned to base. Rearmed in 47 minutes. Attacked again. German crews tried everything to survive. They dispersed into the bocage hedgerows, but the narrow lanes trapped them, preventing rapid withdrawal. They camouflaged tanks with foliage, but the moment a vehicle moved, it revealed its position instantly. Engines overheated. Crews abandoned disabled vehicles under constant air attack. At 1,435 hours, Eberbach received a report from the commander of the 2nd Panzer Division. Further advance impossible. Losses from air attack estimated at 40%. Request permission to consolidate positions. Once again, Eberbach refused. Hitler's order remained unchanged. Advance to Avranches. At 1,523 hours, the largest single strike of the day hit. 48 Typhoons, for full squadrons, concentrated on a 2-kilometer stretch of road south of Mortain. The 116th Panzer Division was attempting to bypass the town. In 6 minutes, 384 rockets were fired. Pilots claimed 23 tanks destroyed and 47 vehicles burning. Later verification confirmed 11 tanks destroyed, 8 disabled, and 34 trucks and half-tracks obliterated. But again, the real damage was not destruction. It was paralysis. The 116th Panzer Division stopped moving. It never advanced another meter that day. By late afternoon, German armored formations no longer existed as coordinated units. They were isolated, immobile strongpoints under constant air surveillance, and the day was not over yet. By 1800 hours on August 7th, 1944, the truth could no longer be hidden. Operation Lüttich was finished. German armored forces had advanced no more than 12 kilometers, less than 1/3 of the 40-kilometer objective to Avranches. The corridor had not been cut. Patton's Third Army was not trapped. The front was not restored. Instead, Panzer Group West lay shattered across the fields and roads west of Mortain. The casualty reports told the story with brutal clarity. The 2nd SS Panzer Division had lost 31 tanks destroyed or disabled, 42% of its starting strength. The 1st SS Panzer Division had lost 28 tanks, nearly 39%. The 2nd Panzer Division had lost 41 tanks, more than half its fork. The 116th Panzer Division had lost 23 tan, KS, 35 pers, NT, in a single day. 123 out of 185 German tanks were destroyed or disabled, a loss rate of 66%. Hans Eberbach looked at the numbers in disbelief. 12 hours earlier, he had commanded a powerful armored force capable of offensive action. Now, what remained were fragments, isolated vehicles, immobilized tanks, exhausted crews hiding under trees and hedgerows, waiting for darkness to move. The RAF 2nd Tactical Air Force had flown 294 Typhoon sorties that day. They had fired 2,880 rockets. They had dropped 73 tons of bombs. Pilots claimed 140 tanks destroyed. Post-battle analysis reduced that number to 81. Confirmed tank kills directly from air attack, with 42 additional tanks disabled by near misses, tracks destroyed, engines shattered, crews killed by concussion. The discrepancy between claims and confirmed kills was expected. Rocket attacks created smoke, fire, and explosions so violent that pilots often counted the same target multiple times. But the numbers alone did not explain the disaster. The real devastation lay elsewhere. The RAF had systematically destroyed the German army's lifeline. By nightfall, 247 trucks lay wrecked. 89 half-tracks burned out along the roads. 34 fuel tankers were destroyed. 52 ammunition carriers were obliterated. 18 command vehicles were gone. A total of 440 soft-skin vehicles destroyed in 7 hours. These losses were catastrophic. Tanks without fuel trucks could not move. Tanks without ammunition carriers could not fight. Infantry without half-tracks could not keep up with armor. Panzer Group West had ceased to exist as a mobile force. It had been transformed into a collection of isolated, immobile strongpoints, waiting targets. At 1923 hours, 77 minutes after sunset, the order finally arrived. Suspend defensive operations. Consolidate positions. Prepare defensive lines. Operation Lüttich was over. It had lasted 12 hours and 23 minutes. But the Typhoons were not the real enemy. Eberbach understood this. What destroyed his counterattack was not just aircraft, rockets, or bombs. It was the system behind them. By August 1944, the RAF 2nd Tactical Air Force operated 18 forward airfields in Normandy. The average distance from airfield to front line was 35 kilometers. Flight time was 8 minutes. This proximity was decisive. Typhoons could respond to target requests in under 15 minutes, from radio call to rockets on target. The system worked with ruthless efficiency. First, detection. Forward air controllers embedded with American ground units spotted German movements. Second, coordination. RAF control centers assigned available squadrons based on priority and location. Average response time, 4 minutes. Third, execution. Typhoons launched, received updated coordinates in flight, and attacked within minutes. Fourth, assessment. Pilots reported results immediately. Controllers confirmed damage and requested follow-up strikes. The cycle repeated continuously, from dawn to dusk. On August 7th, the RAF maintained an average of 47 Typhoons over the Mortain battlefield at any given moment. Germany had nothing comparable. Luftwaffe units in Normandy were scattered across airfields 150 to 200 kilometers away. Response time for ground support was 90 minutes or more, if aircraft were available at all. That day, the Luftwaffe flew 23 sorties over Normandy. The RAF flew 294 Typhoon sorties, plus 412 additional fighter and bomber sorties. Total Allied air sorties, 706. Total German air sorties, 23. A ratio of 31-1. Even those numbers understated the reality. Allied aircraft operated with complete freedom. No German fighters challenged them. Anti-aircraft guns were destroyed as soon as they revealed themselves. German aircraft, by contrast, were hunted on the ground, shot down during takeoff and landing, and destroyed on their own airfields. The sky belonged entirely to the Allies. Hans Eberbach had launched 185 tanks in a battle against a system capable of deploying 486 Typhoons in a single day. And by sunset, the result was undeniable. The counterattack had failed. The tanks were gone. The daylight belonged to the enemy. And Eberbach knew, with absolute certainty, that this was not just a defeat. It was a warning. What destroyed the Mortain counterattack was not bravery, and it was not tactics. It was industrial reality. Hans Eberbach understood this clearly just 3 days later. On August 10th, 1944, he attended a conference at Army Group B headquarters near Fontainebleau. Present was Field Marshal Gunther von Kluge, commander of German forces in the West. Von Kluge opened the meeting with a single question. Can we hold Normandy? Eberbach's reply was later recorded in conference minutes captured by Allied forces. "We cannot hold against their air power," he said. "Every movement in daylight is detected and destroyed within minutes. Our tank losses from air attack exceed our losses from ground combat by 3 to 1. Then he said something extraordinary. "We're not fighting an army. We are fighting an industrial system that can replace losses faster than we can inflict them." Eberbach explained further. "The enemy can lose 50 aircraft in a day and replace them within a week. We lose 50 aircraft and cannot replace them for a month. They have 18 forward airfields within 40 kilometers of the front. We have 3 airfields within 150 kilometers." Von Kluge asked the obvious question: "What do you need to restore offensive capability?" Eberbach's answer was immediate: air superiority. Without it, armored operations in daylight are suicide. Von Kluge paused. "Can we achieve air superiority?" Eberbach shook his head. "No. Not with current production rates. Not with our pilot training capacity. Not with our fuel supplies." The conference ended without resolution. There was no solution to propose. The disparity was too large. 5 days later, on August 15th, 1944, the inevitable began. The Falaise pocket started to close. What remained of Panzer Group West was trapped along with 7 German armies. The pocket stretched 40 kilometers long and 15 kilometers wide. Inside were 100,000 German soldiers, 344 tanks, and 2,300 vehicles. Above them flew 2,800 Allied aircraft. From August 15th to August 21st, Allied aircraft attacked relentlessly from dawn to dusk. RAF Typhoons, American P-47 Thunderbolts, P-51 Mustangs. Wave after wave. Pilots claimed more than 500 vehicles destroyed in the first 3 days alone. Post-battle analysis confirmed that approximately 1/3 of all destroyed German trucks in the pocket were lost directly to air attack. The rest were abandoned, crews fleeing constant bombing, strafing, and explosions. German casualties inside the pocket were staggering. 10,000 killed, 50,000 captured. Another 20,000 to 50,000 escaped before the pocket finally closed on August 21st. Hans Eberbach was not among the captured at Falaise. He escaped the encirclement and continued, commanding remnants of German armored forces during the retreat across France. But his war was over. On August 31st, 1944, British forces captured him near Amiens. For Eberbach, the fighting ended there. The Mortain counterattack had failed because 185 German tanks were sent against a system that could deploy 486 Typhoons, operate 18 forward airfields, and replace losses almost immediately. On the morning of August 7th, 1944, Eberbach believed he could reach Avranches in a single day. By sunset, he commanded 62 operational tanks, and he understood that Germany could no longer win the war. What changed in those 12 hours was not German courage. German tank crews fought with the same determination at 1800 hours as they had at 0600. What changed was the realization that courage and skill were irrelevant against an enemy who could fly 294 sorties, fire 2,880 rockets, and replace every loss within weeks. The Mortain counterattack proved something the Normandy campaign had already made clear. World War II was not decided on battlefields. It was decided in factories. In 1944, Germany produced 39,807 aircraft, an extraordinary achievement for a nation under constant bombing. But the Allies produced 167,654 aircraft, more than 4 times as many. Germany produced 27,300 tanks in 1944. The Allies produced 51,400 tanks. The Allies produced 51,400 tanks. Every German tank destroyed at Mortain took 34 days to replace. Every Allied aircraft lost took 11 days. At those rates, Germany could not win. It could only delay defeat. Hans Eberbach survived the war. He was released from British captivity in 1948, returned to Germany, and lived until 1992, 48 years after Mortain. In his post-war memoirs, he reflected on August 7, 1944. "We lost the battle in 7 hours," he wrote, "but we had already lost the war in the factories. We just didn't know it yet." That was the true lesson of Mortain. Not tactics, not technology, but industrial capacity. Wars are won by the side that can build more, replace faster, and sustain losses longer. In 1944, that side was the Allies. The factories had already decided the outcome. The battles were only confirmation. Thanks for watching Untold World War II. Like and subscribe for more forgotten World War II stories. Where are you watching from today? And what other World War II stories should we cover next? Your support helps us continue bringing these untold histories to life.